Luke chapter 7, we're going to read from verse 11 to 22. And we're going to read about a couple supernatural events. One is the widow of Nain. You might have heard of her before. Her son was raised from the dead. And then we see that John the Baptist has been in prison. He's wondering if Christ is really the one that they should be looking for. And then Jesus goes and does many miracles and says, tell John this, that all of these miracles have been done. So let's read and then we'll discuss a little bit. Luke 7:11. And it came to pass the day after that he went into a city called Nain, and many of his disciples went with him, and much people. Now when he came nigh to the gate of the city, behold, there was a dead man carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. And much people of the city was with her. And when the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her, and said unto her, weep not. And he came and touched the bier, and they that bare him stood still. And he said, young man, I say unto thee, arise. And he that was dead sat up and began to speak, and he delivered him to his mother. And there came a fear on all, and they glorified God, saying that a great prophet is risen among us, and that God hath visited his people. And this rumor of him went forth throughout all Judea, and throughout all the region round about. And the disciples of John showed him of all these things, and John calling unto two of his disciples, and John calling unto him two of his disciples, sent them to Jesus, saying, art thou he that shouldst come, or look we for another? When the men were come unto him, they said, John the Baptist has sent us unto thee, saying, art thou he that should come, or look we for another? And in that same hour he cured many of their infirmities and plagues, and of evil spirits, and unto many that were blind he gave sight. Then Jesus answering said unto them, go your way, and tell John what things ye have seen and heard, how that the blind see, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, and the dead are raised. The dead are raised, to the poor the gospel is preached. And blessed is he, whosoever shall not be offended in me. We're to verse 23, actually. So here we have some supernatural events. And recently I was wondering and thinking, does God still work through supernatural events? As I was just pondering that and kind of revisiting all the different times in Scripture where it's plain that God interceded. It's plain that the Lord had a preference, and there was something that changed because of it. As we see here was the widow of Nain. Her son had died. And Christ comes in and heals him, brings him back to life, right? We have Lazarus, who was Martha and Mary's brother. Also, 4 days later, after he was dead, he brought him to life. Jairus' daughter, that was another one who was raised from the dead. So definitely there are these interactions. Then as we read, and this is straight from the book Isaiah, tell John what things ye have seen and heard, how the blind see, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, to the poor, and to the poor the gospel is preached. All of these things are miracles, right? D.L. Moody, he was asked to do a funeral service, and as he was thinking about what to say at the funeral, he thought, I should go back and I should look to see, what did Jesus say at the funerals? And as he went to look, he found that anywhere Jesus showed up and there was a funeral, they were raised, right? There was no funeral service. So when we think about this, we think all the time, we think about when we have troubles and trials, as it was talked about a little bit this morning. What about us? Can we be healed? Why isn't it going good for us? Why are we having trials? In Luke chapter 4, there's another quote from Christ where he talks about the widow of Zarephath. And actually, this is about 2 chapters before Brother David's verse, when Elijah, when he had been told by God to call for a drought, there was famine throughout the land. And there was, after the ravens, there was no meat for anybody, right? So it was told to Elijah, go to this woman of Zarephath, and she's going to take care of you. And sure enough, he goes and tells the woman, here, I'd like you to cook a little bread, oil, bake something for me. And she just confesses, this is all I have. I was going to cook this for my son, and we're going to die. This is all that's left, right? And miraculously, the oil never runs out, and they're taken care of. But Jesus in Luke 4 says that there were many widows in this time, but Elijah only went to the one. And it kind of gives us a little bit of a picture of what God is doing when he interacts more directly with humans. He's really looking, you might say he's looking to serve his own purposes, but his own purposes are to save souls. God's purpose is to save souls, one way or another. And sometimes he gives divine deliverance, and people listen, and they change their ways. And sometimes the deliverance comes and people don't change their ways. So I think one thing we need to learn and listen to and think about is that even though God may or may not directly intervene in the lives of us and many, it's still our choice as to how we receive this. In Proverbs 21, it talks about how God, let's see if I can find it right here. God, let's go right there. Proverbs 21. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, as the rivers of water. He turneth it whithersoever he will. Just think about that. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. So many times when I think about the current political situation around the world, I think of this verse, that God's in control. We know, if you remember, Naaman the Syrian who had leprosy, when he comes to get healed, it says, oh, Naaman, the servant of God. Who? Naaman, the servant of God. This is a Syrian. He did much evil to Israel. But even yet, he was God's servant, it says. Supernatural intervention. "21 years ago, I think it was this month, my father passed away. He was not a man of God. He had, in his upbringing, he rebelled against anything spiritual. As far as he was concerned, I think I've told you this before, the church was just there to collect money from you. That was what his mind was. And so in his life, he was a hard man. And I remember as he had been in the hospital, in and out for maybe a month at a time, which nowadays, even back 20 years ago, you don't stay in the hospital for a month at a time unless you're really ill. And so we had finally arranged for him to come down to Orange County area, down in Lake Forest. He was at a care facility there to try to recover a little bit and then come to our house. And we would visit him, and we went to visit him once, and it was a two-person room. And in the other bed, there was another man. He was a preacher, it turns out. I don't know, how do you describe him? I can't say a fire-breathing gospel. He was sold out for the Lord. Every word he said was for the Lord. And I remember talking to him. I'm talking to my father. I'm talking to him. And he is just alive and well. And you wonder, why are you here? And I said, why are you here? And he goes, I don't know. I don't know why I'm here. He doesn't know physically why they put him in here. And I kind of thought to myself, I know why you're here. You're here to be next to my dad. Whether we think of it as coincidence, that's not a kosher word, is it? Coincidence. Or that supernaturally God is arranging things. He's arranging in our interactions, in our lives, so that it changes us and it forms us. A week or two ago, we were up in Montana in Glacier National Park, and we were, most of the family was hiking Grinnell Glacier. Fairly short hike, maybe 3.5 miles up, 3.5 miles back. But it was rainy, it was cold, wind was blowing, pretty steep as far as I was concerned. I was last, right, going up the hill. And as I'm going up the hill, we knew it was supposed to be raining, it was supposed to be wet, but for a couple days it was supposed to be that, and it wasn't always like it said. But I had my layers, right? I had a long sleeve shirt on, I had kind of a rain jacket, I had pants that shed water, or pants over my pants that shed water, waterproof shoes, I had a little hat and a cover. And as I was hiking, I was thinking, it was raining. But it was kind of nice, because a lot of time when you're exerting, you need a little cooling. And it was just very pleasant. Going slow, going up. And then the sun comes out, right? They say you got to have a little rain to appreciate the sunshine in your life. And as I kept on going up, I'm thinking, well, I'm hoping to get to the top before the family gets to the top. Oh, no. They're going to be at the top already. I'm hoping to get to the top before they turn around and they're coming down, right? So it turns out that I'm pretty close. I'm probably within a quarter mile of the top. And here they're coming down. And they are cold. Not Lori. Lori's prepared also. She's all dressed. She's all warm. But the kids are cold. Why are they cold? Well, they wore shorts. Didn't have any rain gear on. It was cold. It was cold if you didn't have that extra protection. And I kind of compare that to the Christian life, right? The experiences that we've had. I've been out in the rain with no rain gear. I've gone for walks in the rain and my pants get wet. And it's not pleasant, right? So you kind of prepare for these things based on the experiences that you've had. And as a Christian, Brother Ken talked about being spiritually prepared, spiritual survival this morning in Bible class. As a Christian, the things that we go through in life, we have the privilege of taking that into mind and to using it to our advantage for other spiritual hills that need to be climbed, other spiritual challenges that need to be overcome. But we do need to avail ourselves. I think it was the day before, maybe the day after, I had left my rain pants. I just left them at the cabin. I had forgot about them. And it started to rain a little bit, and I thought, oh my, here. I was prepared, but I didn't use deep thought, right? I didn't go that second mile and really do it right. And luckily, there wasn't a lot of rain that day. But by the grace of God, there wasn't a lot of rain that day for me. In our lives, we have many experiences. We have many challenges. As we read His Word and hide His Word in our heart, as we can think and remember back in Genesis 18 about the Sodom being destroyed and what happened just before Genesis 19, I think, is Sodom. Genesis 18 is God appears to Abraham with two angels. Right? Supernatural intervention going on from the beginning all the way through. In our lives, don't think it doesn't happen anymore. But now I'm thinking of another parallel. The rich man and Lazarus, a different Lazarus, where it's a very interesting window into the spiritual realm where this rich man, he's wanting to go back. Or if I can't go back, send Lazarus to my brothers so they can see. If Lazarus comes back from the dead, certainly they'll believe. And God says, no, that's not going to be. If they have Moses, they have the prophets, they can hear him. We have all sorts of evidence. We have all sorts of previously documented cases where each and every individual is going to be held accountable. Whether you see a miracle, whether you don't see a miracle, as you are presented with the word, we have a choice. We need to keep our eyes open and our minds, and let our actions reflect the truth that we find in God's word, and acknowledge that this life is just the beginning of eternity for us. And to quote Brother Jack Chicosh, it's going to be eternal smoking or non-smoking. It's your choice.